that the world, so fine, so full, so free, was opening up its arms to welcome little me. In eager anticipation of a great exchange, we would share, we would trade. My mind, a sponge, greedy to glean a wealth of worldly gain, the world to part with. In return, every idea I was available to learn, ready to capture all the knowledge my tender mind did yearn. What have I learned since then? Now I am 10, and many years it has been, as I have continually taken in everything the world can give to me. Mom, your love sustains me like every meal you prepare, every lecture, every Sunday school lesson. Dad, your strength I cherish, and ultimately I wish to inherit your strength and your quiet wisdom. Great moral tools to ensure that I never misuse everything I learn. My teacher, my professor, you too provide aid as I travel this path of learning. Keep your voice of reasoning strong and clear. Above the din and laughter of folly and foolish fun that ever beckons to distraction, but be my constant guide as I run and embrace learning. Perhaps when I am 17 and college bound, a great scientist in the making, I will stand on my own, strong, and look joyfully around with gratitude, certain that the exchange was even and fair. The scale was properly calibrated. The middleman did not obscure the true value of my trade. With the world so bright and fair, that I have realized every opportunity that God has granted, that I have reached every potential and met every great expectation. Thank you. Stewart, and I will be attending Thomas Edison in the 6th grade in Meriden.
We certainly want to thank Lana for that wonderful opening poem, reflection. Again, let's give her a round of applause. Let me again say good morning, and say also that it is my honor and pleasure to greet you as we open this first State of Black Connecticut Conference. Today is momentous in that we get to bear witness to a new, fresh, and innovative approach to facilitating engagement in education on 3 levels to close the Black, Latino, and poor students' achievement gap that plagues us not only locally and statewide, but nationally as well. While I am charged with the introduction of program participants and those who are critical to the facilitation of this model program, I would like to ask now that all of you stand and give yourselves a round of applause. ask you to do that because your presence here today signals your firm commitment to the concept of closing the achievement gap in education for countless children of color in the state of Connecticut. So why are we here? We're here to forge the collective's ability to address the needs and concerns of our community with regard to the persistent lagging academic achievement of Black, Latino, and disenfranchised children in Connecticut schools. We seek to break down barriers that foster the notion that people of color cannot take responsibility and action to develop cogent plans to eradicate problems in education confronted with its community. So as W.E.B. Du Bois said, and I quote, we have no right to sit silently by while the inedible seeds are sown for a harvest of disaster to our children, Black and white. Again, our attempt today is to lift the veil and forge new vistas of opportunity to close the pernicious gap in the education of Black, Latino, and disenfranchised youth. Unveiling the 3K curriculum, which we will explore in depth today, moves us quickly towards fulfilling that goal. It offers empowerment to parents, schools, and the community to work collectively to finally close that gap. Dr. Benjamin Mays said, "You are what you aspire to be, and not what you are now. The tragedy of life does not lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having your goal to reach." Again, I want to thank you for your attendance today and certainly for your support. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jack Miller, President of Central Connecticut State University. And let me just briefly, Dr. Miller, to share with our audience today certainly some of your achievements. Dr. Jack Miller began his duties in 2005 as the president of Central Connecticut State University, which was founded in 1849, and is the oldest publicly supported institution of higher education in Connecticut. The university enrollment is over 12,000 students, including over 2,500 graduate students. Prior to coming to Connecticut, he served as the chancellor at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater for 6 years. He's also been dean of the College of Education at Florida State University from 1993 to 1999. He served as professor and administrator at Georgia Southern University and Wichita State University. Dr. Miller has taught students in public education from the elementary to the doctoral degree levels in the United States, Costa Rica, England, and South Africa. He has lectured in many other countries, including Ireland and Sweden. Dr. Miller's academic background includes a bachelor's degree in journalism from Ohio University, a master's degree in education from Northern Illinois University, and a doctorate degree in education from Purdue University. He has recently served as chair of the NEASC Reaccreditation Evaluation Team for the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. He has received numerous national awards, including the Excellence in Diversity Award from the Brothers of the Academy, Commitment to Access, Retention, and Graduation of Underrepresented Students in Higher Education in 2005, and the Pacesetter Award from the National Academic Advisory Association as CEO of the Year in 2003, and the Lee Burgess Award from the National Council of Teachers of English for defending First Amendment rights. His annual study of America's most literate cities is published by USA Today and recognized in over 100 of the largest daily newspapers and on National Public Radio. He has presented 60 refereed papers to 16 different learned societies in the United States and internationally, in countries such as France and Jordan, to UNESCO. He has also given numerous invited addresses and served as a consultant to over 40 educational agencies in the US and other countries. He's published 44 articles in national and international referee journals. He's also authored 10 book chapters, 2 major monographs, disseminated by international associations, 4 books, and 3 series of software and print instructional matters. While he's maintained a continuing research and speaking interest in literacy, recent publications, presentations, and service awards have focused more broadly on higher education issues. Topics have included retention and graduation rates, First Amendment protection, diversity and higher education impact on economic development. Dr. Miller has served as principal investigator and wrote 19 research and training proposals funded for a total of $44.5 million by state, federal, and private agencies, including the Department of Defense, Department of Education, Bell Southern Foundation, and Foundation for Improvement of Post-Secondary Education. So as you can see, Dr. Miller comes to us today with certainly a diverse and impressive record. So may I introduce to some and present to others Dr. John Miller, President of Central Connecticut State University.
It may be the nicest, longest introduction for the shortest speech you're ever going to hear. Really, after Atlanta and that introduction, I don't know how you say welcome in a way that's impressive enough to fit the first part of the program. But I would like to offer just a few very brief observations. Having been a public educator my entire career, I've taught in 3rd grade, I've taught high school English, I've taught in 5 different public universities across the United States, and I always consider myself first and foremost an educator. So whenever I have the opportunity to meet with people that are concerned about the education of our children, I always try to take that opportunity. And so I do welcome you here. We're pleased that you're here at Central Connecticut State University. And as you heard, we are the oldest public education institution of higher ed in the state of Connecticut. We have, excuse me, a substantial range of programs in education. As you know, we were a normal school. I'm sure some of you have heard, at least whether or not you're old enough to remember, that this was a teacher's college, Connecticut Teachers College. And so we have a long tradition in being concerned about education, as do I. So I know you have an exciting program, and I don't want to take too much time, but I would like to just mention maybe 2 things based on my experiences in a career of trying to improve the achievement and the learning of students in schools. And the first one is one that I tell to students, especially high school students, wherever I go. And that is, in education, we talk a lot about percentages and numbers and so on. Like, what's your college's graduation rate? Well, it's 51%, or it's 72%, or it's 39%. And I always tell students this: you don't care about that. Your graduation rate is either 0 or 100%. Because we only graduate 1 by 1. So I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your background is. There are people that have come before you from the same background or more difficult background, and they graduated. Their graduation rate was 100%. And so should yours be. Because it's going to be one, or it's going to be the other. It's not going to be 51%. The other thing I would say on behalf of our institution, and in particular speaking for myself, I am no critic, especially of public, but of all education, but especially of public education. I'm a believer in public education. Thank you. I think it's a very difficult job. If it was simple, there wouldn't be an achievement gap. And all these people that know how to fix it seem to be the people who don't have to fix it. It's easy to figure out what to do if you don't have to make it happen. That's the simple part. But we all need to listen to ideas like you're going to hear today, because we do need to improve. But that doesn't mean that we're critical of one another. It means that we recognize that we have a hard job. We have to help one another. So I'll finish by telling you a quick observation. I used to go around the country and work with school districts. I don't do much of it, I do a little bit now, but I used to do it all the time. I worked with school districts on improving reading test scores all over the country. And I talked to a lot of parent groups, and I talked to a lot of community groups. And whenever somebody would get critical, negative, not trying to improve, not saying we need to do better, but the teachers don't do this, and the parents don't do this, and this is wrong, and that's the trouble with today, I noticed an interesting thing. I would usually say to that person, is that what's wrong with you? Did you get a bad education, and that's how you got to where you were? And here's the phenomenon I noticed. No, they always say, no, I got a good education. That's how I got to where I got to. And here's the phenomenon, it defies science. Those people all got the last good education that anybody got, no matter how old they were. 18 years old, 80 years old. The day they left school, that's when everything went downhill. That's when I've heard 18-year-olds here on our campus telling their younger brother or sister when they're freshmen here, now, when I was in high school, that's when it was tough. Well, that was like 4 weeks before they got here. So, there's plenty of room for us to grow and improve. We know we have a problem. There's no denying that we have issues and problems to deal with. But on the other hand, people of good intentions, as I believe educators are always willing to work to repair problems that we've had in the past and build on the future. That doesn't mean that we're critics of one another. It means that we recognize that we all have a big job in front of us. So I'm happy that you're here today on our campus, and we're pleased to be able to host you. Thank you all very much.
Again, we'd like to thank Dr. Miller for those remarks, and certainly want to thank him for being a sponsor of this event today. We appreciate his leadership, applaud his leadership here at Central Connecticut State University, and look forward to future collaboration with Central Connecticut State University and faculty and staff here. I would be remiss if I did not make another introduction, a person who is an integral part of what happens around here in the life of students. When I say here, I'm talking about Central Connecticut State University. I'd like to introduce Vice President of Student Affairs and a mover and a supporter in terms of this program today, Dr. Laura Tajanti, who is Vice President of Student Affairs for the Central Connecticut State University. I almost made a Freudian slip. I started to say Eastern Connecticut State University. but our friendship, and certainly our knowledge of each other extends back a number of years when we both served on staff at Eastern Connecticut State University. So it's good seeing you. Good seeing you. At this time, I'd like to introduce the real mover. The real energy behind today's program and what we call rollout. let me just say I'm an older person, and just working with this young lady has increased my energy level 1,001%. You cannot be an old acting person around this young lady. Without any further delay, I'd like to introduce Gwendolyn Samuel, who is the chairperson of SBCTA. Gwen, will you please come and make your remarks?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That's what I'm talking about. That's how change occurs, by communicating. First and foremost, of the State of Black Connecticut Alliance, it was founded by 3 parents who were very concerned about the economic crisis that crippled our country in 2008. And I remember having a conversation with Theodore Freeman. He was in the back. He's one of the co-founders. And he works for the post office, and he owns a school. And I remember talking about, what can we do? What can we do? There's a crisis. And so another co-founder, Tawana Bournet, I was like, well, we just need to find who's taking the lead and who's taking the lead to address it, and we'll just jump aboard to lend our services. But because the whole country was in chaos, we couldn't find that one leader. So then we decided to be the change we were looking for. And that is how the State of Black Connecticut Alliance became evolved. First and foremost, I am a parent. When I wake up in the morning, I'm a parent. In the middle of the day, I am a parent, despite what job I'm on. And in the evening, when I lay down, I am a parent. As many of you in the audience, whether you're a grandparent, whether you're an aunt or an uncle, we all have a responsibility to ensure that, I'm not used to reading, and Doreen is keeping me reading things, right? So regardless of what role you play in a child's life, we must ensure that our children have equal access to the tools that they would need to make informed decisions in life. We need to help them develop the coping skills to address life's challenges. And we must prepare to engage them in the civic process, like voting or volunteering. When Mr. Bagwell said that I am this ball of energy, there is no I in team, so we together can address the crisis that is facing Connecticut today. We must ensure, I just can't do this, right? This reading of the poem. The bottom line is Connecticut has the worst in the nation achievement gap. The solution is here in the room. They're on the corners of where you live. They're the educators in front of the classroom. They are the elected officials that I invited to the event, and with all due respect, they did say they're on their way. I invited the education members of our Connecticut General Assembly. I invited candidates that are running for office, because at the end of the day, if you are taking a leadership role, you must be an effective leader, and we must work together to ensure better outcomes for our children. So as we move into the 3K curriculum, when President Miller talked about college IDs, 8 out of 10 of the children that look like me have a better chance of getting a prison ID. The State of Black Connecticut was founded to change those dynamics. And we have an obligation as adults to make the appropriate, effective decisions to ensure that every child that you or I or any other adult come in contact with have equitable access to a high-quality education I read somewhere, I was reading on the Tabby Smiley show that there was a leader of a union, and she was saying that public schools are the right, we should have a right to public schools. So I just added a descriptive word to public school. It needs to be a high quality public school. Because we're the worst in the nation, and we're all to blame for that. And we did a lot of blaming when the economic crisis crippled this country. It is the parents' fault. It is the teachers' fault. It is their fault. It is the children's fault. The achievement gap didn't occur overnight. It was fraying at the seams, and all we thought to do was put some electrical tape around the fray. But then when the fire occurred, we were shocked. How are you shocked when all we did was bandage a situation that needed to be looked at, evaluated, and everyone needed to be prepared to be held accountable to a standard. And we need to begin to surround our children with what they dream to aspire to be. And that is why we are here today. So by a show of hands, that way we're going to make sure that our foundation has been set and we are clear. Is it safe to say that everyone in this room agrees that every child, regardless of their race, regardless of their economic, whether they're rich or poor, deserve access to a high quality education to ensure they are college and career and life ready? Do we have a show of hands? Now, we have set the stage of a strong foundation. Now, we might disagree on the pathways, but the foundation has been set. So as we turn it over to the next step of 3K, which I will be introducing, let me look at the agenda. All right. Dr. Marlon James, which his bio is in the book, and Ms. Doreen Richardson, they will begin to unveil the 3K curriculum, which is know your child, know your school, and know your community. Now, you might think that just applies to parents, but because there are 3 guarantees in life, death, and taxes. So because you're taxpayers, we need to be very concerned about the quality of education in our institutions. And as I'm looking to my right, the lead co-chair of our education committee of our Connecticut General Assembly, Senator Thomas Gaffey, has just entered, and we thank you very much. And we want to give him an applause because we will work together to ensure that the laws that are in place demand excellence. And Mark Freeman says trying hard is not good enough. So ladies and gentlemen, we have tried and we have failed. But the good news is we have regrouped and we have begun action steps to turn around our schools in Connecticut so that it can be once again be some of the top public schools in the country. And we have the ability to do so, and we must do so. Our children's lives are not up for negotiation, and they're not up for experience. State of Black Connecticut is doing their part of the solution building process. Senator Gaffey, again, thank you very much for attending, and I'm sure we all want to have conversations with you. So, at this time, I'd like to introduce Professor Marlon of UConn, and he will give you more about himself, and Doreen Richardson, which is a consultant for the State of Black Connecticut Alliance, and she's also a Windsor Board of Education member, and she keeps me on my toes. At this time, Professor Marlon and Doreen Richardson.